Hey guys, welcome back. Joe Brunsman, insurance broker to the stars. Today, a cyber insurance warning for all you business owners out there. This is something that I personally find both dangerous and annoying for the business community at large. And I'm going to go ahead and explain why that is. Now, when you're trying to get cyber insurance, how is the whole market evolving right now? Well, the name of the game for most people is just volume. So it's like, hey, we know all these businesses need it. They're terrified. But the premiums are still really low, which means the commission for most people is really low. So they're just trying to burn through as many quotes as they possibly can. So generally it boils down to the following at, I would say, 99% of insurance brokerages out there. It's, hey, yeah, you need cyber insurance? Yeah, of course we sell cyber insurance. Well, here, answer a few basic questions. Maybe it's your address, how many employees you have, your revenue. You know, some of these portals, I will say, that are out there, it's like 5 questions and you can get cyber insurance. And then they pop out this quick comparison. Hey, we're going to take a look at one of those here in a second. So then you look at this comparison, and as a business owner, you're probably going, well, I don't really know what any of this stuff means. I may not really even know if I need it or not, but I'm just going to take the one with the most stuff for the least amount of money. And that's how pretty much it pops out. It's like, hey, what's the lowest price? You chat about it for a couple secs. Maybe like, the insurance guy has a couple words he throws around here or there, and then boom, magically you are cyber insured. But unfortunately, it is not that simple. Let's take a look at one of those comparison charts. So this here is one of those comparison charts that I was talking about. Now you're going to look at this, and this actually popped out, and you'll see Axis, Brit, Tokyo Marine, Coalition. So you start scrolling down this, right? You're a business owner. You're like, okay, admitted or non-admitted. I have no idea if that makes sense or not, but whatever, the insurance guy will generally say, like, it probably doesn't matter. And in most cases, it really doesn't. So, okay, moving on. There's some niche cases where it makes sense, but yeah, for the most part, there you go. You see, okay, AM Best rating. Okay, cool. Maybe that's a contractual requirement. Limits all look the same. You'll see like right here on the retention side, that one's got a higher retention. So you're like, all right, I'm just going to knock that one off the list. You start going down here and you're like, okay, well, I'm really worried about ransomware. So then you're kind of going down, and then right here, extortion ransomware covers damage and ransom payments from an attack. Now, a specialist would then ask the question, okay, are you worried about an insider threat potentially launching some type of ransomware? Or are you worried about an external threat? So external random bad guy. That's going to be kind of a big difference there. But then you start looking down, you're like, okay, bricking, third-party liability. Yeah, I don't really know what that means, but I guess maybe I should have it. I'm not really sure. And you're like, okay, PCI, fines and penalties imposed by banks. You start moving down. You go, okay, cybercrime. Yeah, we deal with money, so I want to make sure we have coverage for cybercrime. And so then you kind of go to the bottom, and you're like, well, I don't really know what any of this psychobabble means, but this policy right here is $1,100, and it looks like it's got what I need, so maybe I should just buy that one. Well, maybe that does actually cover what you need. Maybe it doesn't cover what you need. But unfortunately, these like little quick comparison charts here don't actually encapsulate everything that could be on that policy. And that may end up costing you a significant amount of money if this gets screwed up. So this here actually is the Brit policy form that came from that quote page. And let me just kind of show you why you need to look behind the curtain and see what's going on there, because it may burn you, maybe it won't. But do you really want to take that risk with your business? So you start moving down here and you go, okay, well, privacy and security liability and regulatory coverage. Okay, $1 million. There was $1 million over there, but it didn't actually have that wording in it. Then you start moving down here and you go, okay, where was all of that stuff that was on that little quick comparison quote chart? How is any of that in here? And you start moving down and you go, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to trust that it's in there. And then you start moving down. And you remember, hey, on that quote page, there was one retention. And over here, there's all these retentions and this affected individuals line. And you're like, how does any of this make sense? What does this mean? What's the maximum aggregate retention? Is that per claim? Is that an aggregate per year? Suddenly, you as a business, you might be taking on more risk than you initially thought. What's this continuity date? If you remember, you go back, this retroactive date here, that was not on the quote page. That can be really important for you. You could very well face an uncovered loss because you didn't even look into the retroactive date, or maybe you didn't even know to look into that, so that could burn you. You start going down here and you go, okay, choice of law in New York. Maybe that's important to you. Maybe it's not. I mean, like if you're in Arizona and the choice of law is New York and you have a dispute with your insurance company, flying to New York, maybe not the best thing for you to do there. So you got to think about that. And then as you move on here, we start scrolling down, you kind of start looking into this and you go, okay, well, I've highlighted them here in advance. You go, okay, amend consent to settle. Is that important? Is that not important? When does that come into play? What are the complaint procedures here? What is consequential reputational damage loss coverage? That was not even on the quote page. Is the retention good? Is the limit good? What does this even mean for my business? What's the risk period? Is 120 days? Is that appropriate? Is that not appropriate? Is it too short? Is it too long? How does that play out with my business? Then you keep going down and you go, okay, contingent bodily injury endorsement. What does that mean? How would bodily injury come out of a cyber event? I mean, it could. Specific businesses, that's a really kind of a crucial coverage for them to have. Other businesses, I mean, it's just on there anyways, but they'll probably never use it. Cooperation with law enforcement, is that something that your attorney would advise, or would that be something that he advises you not to do that? It's going to depend on what your network, what you're holding. Computer hardware bricking endorsement. You saw something on the quote page about bricking, but it didn't say corrupted computer hardware. Then you have to think, okay, is that an appropriate endorsement? What does the actual policy language say? Criminal rewards payment. Is that ever going to come into play? Then you go down further and you say, okay, delete exclusion 5 endorsement. What is exclusion 5? What is replacing that exclusion? And what does this new endorsement say? Is this something that's going to burn my business as a business owner? Is this something that's actually quite useful and very nice that they put on there? I guess you'll never know if you already bought the policy, because now you're stuck with it for a year. Invoice manipulation loss. That was actually not on the quote page. So broadly speaking, what this means is if a bad guy tricks your clients into wiring money to bad guy, that's a different type of cybercrime coverage than if bad guy tricks one of your employees into wiring your business funds to somewhere it's not supposed to go. Post-breach remedial consulting cost coverage. Can't talk here. 100 hours. What does that mean? System hijacking coverage. What is system hijacking? Now, is that dealing with cyber extortion, like the ransomware stuff? But there was a different line item earlier up there. And you keep going on. And this isn't even getting into the idea of actually reading the true strict definitions there and understanding what's going on here. So kind of the point of all this is the following. Be very cautious. That is my recommendation to you. If you're going to ask basic questions, generally that's going to result in basic answers unless you're dealing with someone who's actually passionate about this and can point out, hey, here's maybe a flaw in logic you had, or here's a couple things you haven't thought about that are actually really important. So, I'd urge everybody out there, no, you don't have to work with me. I can't do cyber insurance for everybody, but please, if you can, try and find a specialist. One of the things I do when I'm working with a new client is I'm trying to figure out, okay, what is this business really concerned about? Generally, they can tell me that, right? So it's know what your business requires. Generally, they know what they're concerned about, but they don't know what they don't know. And that's part of what my job is to do my best to try and uncover what are some of those hidden risks that maybe the business owner isn't thinking about, but that's where I come in to try and add value on the front end to say, okay, well, maybe you didn't know, but I think you have a higher risk here. Here's where insurance may or may not cover that, and here could be some of the ramifications of it. So some circumstances, it's, hey, you know what? Cyber insurance just won't cover this. Or looking at the case law, I just have no idea if this is covered or not. Obviously, that's going to have major ramifications on how much they're willing to invest in cybersecurity, what those internal controls are going to be moving forward. There should be a lot of value added on the front end before that policy is even purchased. Once it is purchased, you really need to start looking at, okay, what are some of the rules? Now, ideally, you can do that beforehand, looking at the specimen policy to see, okay, what implications will this have? Specifically, areas like cybercrime. Some policies may have very specific language on what had to have been done, what those internal controls had to be before the policy would ever pay out. You don't want to find that out after you already have, say, 6-7 figures that got wired to a bad guy. That would be a very, very bad day. So make sure you read and understand that specimen policy form. Make sure you actually know what your business requires. And I put that in underline because it pains me to say this, but for most insurance brokers, there's just not a lot of money out there. They have no technical background. So they're just slinging policies as fast as they possibly can. And it really could hurt your business. Now, knock on wood, nothing goes wrong. But, me as a business owner, that's not a risk that I'm willing to take. I always think, more knowledge is superior, right? Get as much knowledge as you can on that particular topic and then move forward within a reasonable amount of time. But you don't just want to be trusting random insurance guy who is just slinging policies based on the lowest price, because that could be very, very dangerous. Now, when in doubt, like as I said before, there's just not a lot of us in the insurance community out there that are really going to take the time to try and explain this to people, explain to them what the rules are, what's covered, what's not covered, talk to them about those cybersecurity controls. Maybe it's something where, hey, you had to get, say, a higher retention here just because of the way the market's going, aka a deductible. With that, make sure you're going back to your MSP because, hey, that really kind of ups the ante for you. So those additional investments would really make sense. Or, hey, here's things that just cannot be covered under your cyber policy. Make sure that you are taking those risks appropriately, and maybe you need to invest more into your cybersecurity, and just think of your cyber insurance as like that reserve parachute, not the primary escape mechanism for your business if something goes sideways. So when in doubt, just work with competent legal counsel. That should always assist you. All right, with that, this is Damage Control Cyber Insurance Compliance. That is where you can download it for free. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Share this with your fellow business owners to try and keep them out of trouble. If there's another topic you want to talk about, leave a comment below, shoot me an email, and I will do my best to cover that. With that, stay safe.